Hey everybody, Jared with Second Life Design. Kicking off the shop tour video series. I'm at a local shop. It's a couple miles from my house. I'll let him introduce himself, the kind of work he's doing. But a lot of cool stuff in here, a lot of good ideas. So drop me a comment below if anything follows up, and we'll get Nick's contact info as well, and you can follow up with him. So just keep watching along, and we'll go from there. Who are you and what do you do?
Hey guys, I'm Nick with Duden Custom Kennels. Full-time, I'm a process engineer and I do dog kennels part-time. So we have the woodworking shop here. We started off here as more of a man cave and slowly transitioned into a workshop. So everything here isn't necessarily how we planned it to begin with. We slowly transitioned into the workshop, so everything in here is made for flexibility. All the work tables are on casters, all the big equipment's on mobile bases. Everything is set up to move around, so I can still park in here, or I can still move things out of the way and have, a small gathering or something along those lines. But we're set up to do a wide variety of things, but we focus mainly on building kennels and then just small projects for fun and to keep the wife happy.
All right, so how big is the building?
So this is a 24 by 32 shop. Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty basic.
So it seems like you have a lot of room. We'll pan around here so we can see everything, but actually we'll just go ahead and pan around, and we'll kind of start with one wall and go to the next. And definitely a man cave feel in here. It seems like you could host a party just as easy as you could do some woodworking, but it seems like you have enough to do what you need. Do you have a different type of construction that you like? Is there something that you prefer? When you have a process you're doing, when you're starting a project, is it breaking things down first, or kind of does it matter by project?
I mean, each project we do is a little different, but as far as the kennels go, everything's pretty consistent. We kind of have the same step-by-step process. But as far as personal preferences, I prefer to do some rough construction and some more rustic projects. The kennels are kind of a middle ground. They're not really rustic, but they're not quite modern or fancy by any means. But as you can see by what's on the walls and the bar, I prefer to do some interesting builds and some more rustic things.
Okay, I see your tailgate on the wall there. That's pretty cool.
So back from the shop here.
All right. Okay, so these are the dog kennels you're speaking of. Is this typical of the size you're doing? How big is this thing, Nick?
So this one's just a little over 5 feet long. It's basically a medium single that we just added some shelving to. So this is good for a dog up to like 60 pounds, give or take. This one's a little out of the ordinary. Shelving is, we've only done maybe 5 or 6 times. So it's not a very common request, but it's definitely a good look. This one's going to Philadelphia. And anyone out there looking to ship things, don't. It's a hassle. It's a pain. It's definitely expands the market, but it's so much extra work and stress.
Okay, so you bring that up. We're kind of where we're located, East Central Illinois. We're kind of in the middle of the country, I guess. But you ship things all over, is that right?
Yeah, I can get about 1,000 miles in any direction for the most part. Big cities aren't too bad to get to. We can pretty much go out west to Colorado is about as far as we go usually, and then anywhere on the East Coast. We've been all over. We've been to Alaska even, but once you start getting further away, it's very difficult. The reliability goes down. Each time you have a project that gets ruined in shipping, it really throws a wrench into things, especially when you're a small shop.
Okay. What kind of construction are you using for this? Is it something where it is kind of basic materials? Is it pocket hole construction? What's the process for this? If somebody may want to recreate their own, or maybe tips you want to share with these?
So these are very basic. That's why it's kind of how we got started in this. But we pretty much use pine from Menards. We bring it here, let it sit for a month or so to acclimate to the humidity, and basically everything on here is with pocket hole construction, glue. You can build these with minimal tooling. We started with just basically a miter saw, a very poor table saw, and a Craig jig. you need a drill press as well, but for the most part, basic tooling will get these done.
Okay.
So it's nothing too difficult, nothing a beginning woodworker can't tackle. I mean, it started a whole obsession for us.
So would you consider yourself in the minimal tool category? You don't have the shop full of things?
We started the minimal. I like to think I'm starting to get a little more tooling. You know, now we have a planer and a joiner, which we never use on these projects, but they're needed for these. That's just more for other projects we do for fun, basically.
Okay, so it's kind of it's when these started building the crates kind of came out of a necessity thing that's kind of just grown from there. Would that be?
Pretty much, yeah. We started as cheap as we could. You know, the first one we built wasn't for profit. It was for our own home. It was a necessity thing. And I couldn't convince the wife that I needed thousands of dollars in equipment, so we had to start with the bare bones. You know, we had just the basic miter saw that I borrowed from my dad. I had a table saw that I got for free from someone that was going to throw it out, so it wasn't very nice, but it worked. And we borrowed a drill press. So just those basic tools were enough to get started. And as we kind of built through a few more, we started to get some nicer equipment, but still we're very basic, and we have what we absolutely need.
All right, at this point, we'll go around to some of the tools you have in a second. What tools are you looking to get now? Doing this kind of construction where you're not really doing a lot of milling, as you said, what's the next one that's gonna help you the most?
I have a contractor job site table saw, and it works great. It's a Cobalt model. It's very affordable. But I'd like to get a more it's a work site, job site. I want to get a contractor table saw, one that's got a little bigger base to it.
Something a little bit heavier, maybe.
A little heavier duty, a little better fence on it. That's really the next step up. Like I said, I've got a good planer, a good joiner, and that's enough to get me through most projects.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at, but I just can't justify it at the moment because the one I have, like I said, works great.
Yeah.
It's not a cabinet table saw, but
yeah,
it works good.
Does what you need for now. So.
Yep.
All right, we'll pan around here and we'll get some of the tools. Maybe we can speak about those individually, and we'll do some final wrap-up stuff. All right, starting with the tools and things. Basic miter saw station. What do you like about there's been a kind of a hotly contested thing, kind of going around Instagram and other places, of the big built-in miter saw station versus the portable one. This might be kind of in the middle. There's a little bit more of a base to it. What is your preference as far as that goes for the type of work you're doing?
For the type of work I'm doing, mobile is the way to go. Like everything else in here, I don't like to have something built in that takes up a lot of space. You know, if I want to move this out of the way and pull my truck in and do some maintenance or something like that, it's really easy to move this around. I'm not a huge fan of the massive miter saw built-ins. They just take up so much space, and they're a very basic function. You know, we use this for 90% of the work we're doing, but we don't need a large space for it. So on wheels makes it so much easier to move around and be flexible in the shop with other demands.
Okay, so I think that's kind of especially in the smaller shops, having, you know, the flexibility is the key. You know, it's not knowing what projects you're getting into, and having that adaptability can make it really nice. So.
Yeah.
So you have a couple dust collectors. Do you keep those for different tools, like dedicated for different things?
So we bought a nice new cheap system right here in the beginning, and that was just going to be for the miter saw, and then we also have a longer tube that we can hook up to the table saw. I mean, it's a pretty basic setup, but it makes a world of difference when it comes to cleaning the shop and keeping things dust free. The mobile one just so happened to be for sale at a neighbor's house for basically free, so we couldn't really pass up that deal. That's really helpful if I'm doing some planing or joining, because it's got a little more suction to it, so it doesn't plug up as much with the chips that you get from a planer and a joiner. But also, you know, I don't want to be able to, with this one here, I can reach out halfway across the garage. I tend to do a lot of work over there as well, so it's nice to have the mobile unit that I can go use for other projects, and just keep this one mounted just for the table saw and whatever, the miter saw and whatever we're doing in this area.
Just a little sidebar here. Is that a mini split?
It is.
So you have heating and air conditioning?
I do, and it is fantastic.
Okay.
I will say that was one of the first things we bought for in here, and it is a game changer. You know, controlled humidity, heat in the wintertime obviously is a big thing. We have propane rain out here, but I didn't really want to dedicate a full corner to a overhead heater. So this works out great space-wise, keeping things comfortable in here, both for personal reasons and also, we don't have the flexible or the variable humidity. We're not going from 20% in the winter to 80% in the summer. We stay 50%, which really helps keep the wood stable.
Okay. Pan back around here, kind of get to the back wall. Looking up top, is that an air cleaner of some sort?
That is. That's an old furnace fan that we made a box for and put a couple furnace filters on. That'll put out a little more CFM than necessary for in here, but it does a pretty good job cleaning the shop air. I mean, within about 10 minutes, you can go from pretty heavy dust in here down to minimal.
No, I think that's. I think I've even seen some tests where people have done with like the commercially bought air purifiers, air handlers, and how they perform versus a box fan with a furnace filter behind it, and it does just as good, and it can be a little more essentially located and however. But
we actually went through and measured CFM versus the square footage of the shop to make sure that we were right within those suggested guidelines, and it makes a world of difference in here.
Yeah. All right, looking down a little bit, so I see the DeWalt planer and a joiner. You said you don't do a ton of milling at this time, but how are you liking the DeWalt planer? Does that work well for what you need? I see a lot of people buying that. That's a 735, right?
It is.
And I see a lot of people getting that, and then see the upgrades to the Helix head and different things. Is it? What are your thoughts?
Personally, I'm sure that the Helix head does a great job, but the standard knives in there, we've gone through walnut and honey locust so far, both pretty hard woods, and it handles it with no problem whatsoever. As far as cut quality, if you're on the high speed, you do tend to see the planer markings, but if you drop it down to that first speed on your finished cut, realistically, you almost don't even get sand afterwards because it does such a smooth job on there. So for what I'm doing, that's not even in the ballpark right now.
Okay.
I have absolutely zero need for it. I mean, if you're doing a lot of milling, I don't know about longevity of the knives. Maybe that will make a difference, but for what we've been doing so far, it's been perfect.
And I think that one has a built-in dust blower. Does that do okay?
It does. It does great. You hook it up to a dust collector, and there is absolutely nothing that gets out. It is perfect.
Okay. That's really kind of wrapping it up. I think we can go a little bit more. I see you have some beer stuff over here. Are you a brewer by chance?
I am. This was originally, like I said, a man cave and a brewery. So we've got a 3-tap chest freezer or keezer set up along with a beer fridge and fermentation chamber, all that fun stuff for brewing beer.
Okay, well we might save that for another video. Or we'll do some production meeting after this. But what's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they're interested in a kennel? Have any follow-up questions or your Instagram page?
We're on Instagram, Facebook, and we've got a website. Email is usually the best way. We're busy 24/7, so it's hard to get a hold of us through phone, but email is usually the quickest way to get a hold of us.
All right, what is your Instagram handle?
Duden Custom Kennels, I believe is what it is.
So that's Duden, D-U-D-E-N, Custom Kennels. I'll drop that in the comments below or in the description below so you have access to that. But thank you, Nick. Really appreciate it. Hopefully I get some good information out for people. I think you have a really clean shop.
Thank you.
And it shows, and I think there could be a lot of inspiration found in this. So any other questions, drop them down below, and thank you.